Hey guys, Mr. V over here, doing a book review today for When the Sea Came Alive, An Oral History of D-Day by Garrett and Graff. This is a non-fiction book, and it is about D-Day. Now, before you're considering this book, I want you to know that this book is about D-Day, not all of World War II. This is just about D-Day. But the book describes many different events. It describes the planning, the training, the undercover operations that went on, the execution on the different beaches, different soldier stories about D-Day, and just there's a lot that goes on. But it is not the whole war, because even after they land on D-Day, there was still 10 months left. So you want to be aware that it is not the full war. But as I told you already, there's a lot that is covered in this book, because D-Day has a lot of story to it, and it is also very important. A lot of people know what that is. You know, June 6th, 1944, 150,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, and they're trying to take on the Nazis. And the stakes were very high, because if they failed, the Allies may have had to negotiate with Hitler. Now, these are things that we don't think about because we already know the result. We know the Allies ended up defeating the Nazis within that year, and we know what happens, but we don't think about how high the stakes were at the time. And the author mentions this in the introduction, because when you think of it from that perspective, then it adds an extra layer of intensity to realize how much more was at stake at that point, and you realize what was going on. Now, this was a great book, but before considering this book, I would say it helps knowing a little bit about World War II. It's not required, but it helps knowing a little bit, because while the first few chapters, he quickly covers the events leading up to D-Day. You know, D-Day happened in 1944. A lot had already happened in World War II. So it does help knowing a little bit about it, because he doesn't go too far in depth about the stuff leading up to it. And that's why I said it helps knowing a little bit about going into it. I think you will appreciate the book a lot more if you know that. So let's get into the book review now. Now, this book has a very different writing style, different than I've read before. As it says, it's an oral history of D-Day, and it definitely is, because the author went through more than 5,000 different interviews, memoirs, personal stories, books, documents, basically anything with a story related to D-Day. He went through it, and then he quotes different people at different times and their story about what happened and their perspective. So you are really reading the first-hand accounts from a different point of view. I'll give you a quick example. What will happen is, let's say he'll say an event that happens, then he'll tell you what Churchill says, and then he will tell you the next line will be what the news said about that event, and then he'll say what a girl living in Britain saw and felt about that event, and then the next line is what the White House said about that event. You know, and he keeps going back and forth between those types of things. So it's definitely a very different style, and it takes a few pages to get used to, about every couple sentences, a different person's point of view changing. But after you get used to it, it is a lot of fun, because it makes it very interesting reading the first-hand accounts of what people felt. And you get so many different points of view, because you get the high-ranking people, and you get just the everyday people. You get the soldiers, you get some of the people, people that they invaded, you get that side, because he's giving you accounts from both sides. He gives you the Allied side and the German side. Now, he does focus a lot more on the Allied side, but you still get a few accounts from what some of the Germans felt, and what some of the French that were still living in France felt at the time. But you're reading first-hand accounts of both sides, and what they thought of each other at a certain time frame. So it definitely is very interesting in those regards. And this book, as I said, it covers D-Day, and it shows you how much planning went into D-Day. When you're reading it, it's phenomenal to realize how much planning went into it, because they show you how they decided where they would land, who would be appointed to do certain things, and why they were appointed, and the arguments that they went and they had. And it's interesting reading the behind the scene things, because then you get all the secrets that they went through that weren't being revealed to the public. And it is very interesting. And it created some very fun chapters when you read some of the secret stuff that went on and the conversations, because as I said, he quotes some of the high-ranking people that they were talking probably 30 or 40 years later about what they felt. And it just makes for some very fun chapters, because it shows how they got spy informations and how they fooled Germany, because I didn't realize it before reading this, despite knowing World War II, but Germany knew there was going to be an invasion. Germany saw there was over 1 million troops, United States troops got sent to Britain. So they knew there was going to be an invasion. They just didn't know when or where. So because of that, the Allies had to actually fool the Germans. And like, so the Germans could not prepare too much. And this shows how they decided to do it and what they did and who they appointed. And you get the firsthand accounts of everything. So it is definitely very interesting. And you not only get that, then you get D-Day, the big part of the book, D-Day. And it is intense reading about those firsthand accounts, because you have accounts for people like the planes flew overnight, there was paratroopers that like parachuted in overnight, and then like what happened is some of the planes crashed or some people landed injured. And for the people who landed properly, like how do you find your troops? It's the nighttime and some couldn't find their troops and you're in enemy territory, and like it's just when you're reading, you're like, what would you do? And they're explaining what they did and what they had to go through and just the scariness. And then the people who had to storm the different beaches because it happened overnight, and the different results that happened at different beaches, because some units did well, but some units had very few survivors. And you're just reading their accounts of what happened and how scary it is. And it's crazy to hear from their perspective. And like some of the people in the book talk about how there's like bullets flying from unknown locations. Your friends are laying there dead. You're just but you just have to get to the beach. But that's the scary part, is like there's no turning back. But you have to storm those beaches with bullets flying everywhere. Yet you're worried about mines as you go to the beaches that if you go, it may blow up. So it's like, if you stay on the beach and you don't start moving towards the beach, you could die from a bullet. But if you start storming the beach, you could die from bullets, but you could also die from a landmine going off. And just the intensity, like when you're reading it, you do feel scared for those people. I mean, you know these people survived because they're giving you the firsthand accounts, but they talk about the fear that went on in their mind. And I'm thinking like, what would I have thought when doing this, and how scary it is, because this is not a video game, you know, this is real life. And it's just pretty crazy when you're reading it, and you get so many different stories and a lot of different perspectives, and you really feel a lot of sympathy when you're reading it and seeing like what they had to go through. And it makes you understand like how tough it was, and like, again, what they had to go through. Also, this is just D-Day. They just have to go and fight Germany even further after the survivors still have to go and fight for like another 10 months. So there's still a lot that happened after, and it just, you realize like, wow, like the sympathy you feel for those soldiers. It is really, really crazy. So if you guys are interested in World War II, especially on D-Day, I would highly recommend this book, because this was a very interesting account, and it was just a great read that gave you a lot of like perspective, and it was just, I'd say it's a lot of fun reading it. And for those who are interested, like the audio version, just so you know, is amazing, because they have like a different voice for everyone. So it makes it feel like you are actually hearing the soldiers talk about it. So it is a lot of fun if you want to consider the audio version. But, you know, thank you for watching my review today. If you guys enjoyed the review today, you know, hit the subscribe button. I always upload multiple different types of book reviews. If you guys have any comments, you have any questions, post it in the comment section below, because I always love hearing your comments and, you know, your suggestions. So, but thank you for watching my book review today. This is Mr. V. Go enjoy reading.